Chapter 51, Do you want you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 051 Do you want sponsored chapter by Anonymous. Thank you for the support. The both of them descended from the floor. It was not that Jun Xie did not want to start his plans here, but his senses told him that someone was observing him in this building. This feeling made him uncomfortable. Thus, he had suggested going to the quiet Red Joy establishment. After Jun Xie and Tang Yuan had left the floor, a voice sounded out within a private lounge in the building. Brotherly, they have left. What are your thoughts? A gentle voice replied. This Tang Yuan could be considered someone with quite the insight, but that is his only worth. He is too much of a debauchee. Even if someone like him harbors any ill intentions towards us, he would take actions against us in broad daylight. Thus, he is of no concern. As for Jun Moxie, his actions today seem to differ from what I have heard. Within the tone was a deep feeling of concern. Oh. According to Brotherly, there is something wrong with that little Jun brat. The first voice replied in a doubtful voice. However, this brat seemed to be the same frivolous and greedy person. You can see it just now, he was even extorting Qin Hu to that extent. This brat's appetite is quite something. I did not expect that he would ask for all of the casinos of Northern City Clan. Haha. What nonsense. Is he not afraid of choking on them? There are some matters that you are not aware of. This is not the only time that Jun Moxie had acted strangely. Something is definitely not right here. Get Li Yen on this matter, tell him to inform Qin Hu, go to Jun Moxie tomorrow afternoon. Qin Hu must note down every single word that Jun Moxie say without missing anything. After that, arrange it properly and send it to me. I need to analyze this matter properly. This second person mused as his fingers lightly tapped the table. Recalling Jun Xie's actions earlier, he shook his head. From the way he talks to the way he acts, he is obviously just a typical debauchee. Why would I feel something strange from it? Was I simply being too sensitive? No. It is better to be safe than sorry. In the next few days, try to find an excuse to meet Jun Moxie, the Brotherly slowly said. There have been reports stating that this brat have been spending the past few days undergoing intense death-defying training at home. There has been quite a few of these reports, making me feel apprehensive. Go check it out and see if it is true. Me. You want me to go meet Jun Moxie? The other person replied in a reluctant tone. His tone seemed to imply that the act of meeting Jun Moxie was something extremely shameful. A shame born of being seen together with this kind of debauchee. You are still so arrogant. This arrogance will be your undoing. The Brotherly raised his head, his features delicate. He was none other than Li Yuran. Even though those words were spoken lightly, the other person suddenly broke out with cold sweat. I understand, I will return to make the arrangements. Good, when that happens, I will be there to observe. I will see just what is Jun Moxie planning, Li Yuran lightly said. By the way, Brotherly, I received news that the second may be making a move these few days. It seems he is already becoming impatient. However, it is uncertain if his target is the third or Princess Ling Meng. Our source is being very careful, we have no more news. Oh. Li Yuran gave out a "hang" with a gentle voice. Slowly lowering his voice, he replied. The second is being quite the fool. Whoever chooses to make a move at this time would be the one to fall. For now, we shall only observe at the sidelines. Not doing anything would be the best action for now. But, Princess Ling Meng is the one you fancy. The other person seemed fearful of continuing his sentence. No matter, in the end, she is just a woman. If her life is the price I have to pay to cause a river of blood to flow from the first, second and third, then I would gladly wish for it, Li Yuran gently replied as he maintained a calm demeanor, though an absolute aura of coldness seeped out from him. In the face of a historical great cause, a mere woman. He is of no concern. The lounge area became quiet. On the road, Jun Xie was seated as far as possible from Tang Yuan within the carriage, trying hard to maintain himself. Enduring the stench of fat coming off Fatty Tang's body was no easy feat even for someone who was the king of assassins of his generation. Jun Xie felt as though he may not be able to hold on. Jun Xie opened the carriage curtains to let the air in. Fatty Tang, from what you have told me, it seems like you have been suffering quite miserably at home. Tang Yuan, who originally looked enthusiastic, slumped down. He waved his hand as he feebly replied. Third young master, if you consider yourself my brother, then do not bring this up again. Once I think about it, I get the urge to just hang myself. How could I be so unlucky? You do not see others being hit by such a kind of circumstance. But why is it that this keeps happening to me again and again? Third young master, I really am unlucky. Then, do you want to rid yourself of this problematic situation? Jun Xie gave out a sinister laughter, tempting Tang Yuan. Of course I want, why would I not want? Only a real bastard would not want to. But, this is not a matter that can be easily resolved. Tang Yuan scratched his head, his expression making his face look older. Don't say things like easy or difficult. All I am asking is whether you want to rid yourself of this miserable life. Jun Xie asked, as he led the fish towards the bait, his eyes staring at Fatty Tang. I really want. Tang Yuan burst out with excitement. Third young master, could it be you have a plan? I do not have many plans, but I do have a few tricks. And any of these tricks will be enough for you to escape from your current predicament. Are you interested? Jun Xie chuckled as he shook his legs. I am interested. Third young master. My dear brother. Brother Jun, uncle Jun, ancestor. Please tell me quickly, I really cannot take any more of this. At this moment, Tang Yuan felt as though he had grasped onto a life-saving straw. He became excited, panting for breath and almost bursting into tears. Today, we saw how arrogant that Northern City clan was, did we not? In addition, they also made you feel very unhappy, did they not? Jun Xie mentioned while laughing lightly. Unhappy? Those two sons of bitches made me really vexed. If not for the fact that there is a problem back at home, I would have already exterminated them. When he comes to send money tomorrow, I will not even go meet him. Tang Yuan shook his head. Third young master, quick, tell me what your plan is. Why did you bring up these two rubbish for? Is this not a method? Tang Yuan, I am certain that not many people are aware that a burglary happened at your home, am I right? Jun Xie smiled. There are many who knew that our house was robbed. Having items stolen was no big deal, but the information of what was stolen is something that nobody else knows. If people were to find out that a 9th level Xian core was stolen from our house, then my family would become a laughing stock for everyone. Externally, we only announced that we are chasing after some runaway slaves and some enemies, Tang Yuan mumbled. He was becoming confused as to what kind of solution Jun Xie was trying to give him. But if my guess is correct, Qin, who is aware of all that, Jun Xie shook his legs again. You may have noticed earlier, but when you mentioned that something was stolen from your Tang family, Qin, whose face became flustered, his body seemingly breaking out in sweat. In truth, there was only a slight change in Qin whose eyes, whereas his face showed no change. As for the sweat, that was non-existent. However, Fatty Tang was not paying attention and could no longer remember. You mean? Qin, who is connected to this matter? Tang Yuan instantly stood up, his body straight, his small eyes turning round. The importance of what Jun Xie had just said was too big. Any mistakes were simply unacceptable. If this were just something ordinary, then Tang Yuan would simply believe in anything the young master Jun said. Fatty, you are overthinking things. It does not matter if he has any connection to this matter or not. What matters is if you think he has any connection to this matter. All you have to do is go back and tell your grandfather that Qin Hu and the Northern City clan might be connected to this matter. That way, no matter what happens, regardless of whether Northern City clan has any connection with this matter, the miserable situation that you are in will be lessened by quite a bit. Jun Xie laughed sinisterly. Besides, we are not accusing him for no reason. That flustered look on his face back then was certainly not false. If he was not feeling guilty, would he show such a face? But if my grandfather finds out that if Qin Hu was not involved, then would I not end up in bigger trouble? Tang Yuan hesitated. Chapter 52, Tang Yuan's Confidential Report. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 052, Tang Yuan's Confidential Report. Regular chapter. Even if Qin Hu was not involved, wouldn't this prove that you are trying your best to help solve this matter? Considering how much you are trying to repent and help out, I believe your grandfather would not be so harsh on you. Besides, all you need to do is insist that Qin Hu is a major suspect. With your grandfather's current state, he will certainly spare no effort in determining the truth of this matter. When that happens, it no longer mattered if Qin Hu is involved or not. At the same time, you would have helped the common people by exterminating a source of calamity. Think about it, why should you not do it? Reel him in. You are right, my grandfather placed a great value on that item. As long as he gets hold of a clue, he would immediately mobilize everything. Tang Yuan thought out loud. However, this matter needs to be done properly, otherwise my future days would be extremely miserable. Very well. I will follow your plan. The more he considered it, the more he believed that this was a wonderful plan. Tang Yuan eventually became impatient and said, "Third young master, how about if I let my men send you over to Red Joy establishment so that you can enjoy the quietness there? I need to go back quickly to report to my grandfather. Otherwise, if grandfather finds out that I went to visit a brothel after finding out about this instead of reporting to him first, my situation will become even worse. It is indeed not a suitable thing to do. Since you have something going on, how could I have the mood to go to the brothel? I will just play around." Jun Xie laughed. "Fatty Tang, congratulations. You are about to obtain freedom." Tang Yuan smiled wide, akin to the Buddha Maitreya. "This is all thanks to brother's advice." After declining Tang Yuan's offer to escort him back, Jun Xie descended from the carriage and the both of them parted ways. Observing Tang Yuan's carriage moving away, Jun Xie's face revealed a smile. If the Tang family were to take action, what should his next step be? The Xian core was resting within his hands and yet he had no clue on how to utilize it. How should he solve this problem? Should I spread the news of this item out to attract some high-ranked experts into Qianxiang City? In this vast world, there are many capable people. Surely some among them would know what I need. However, this matter needs to be concealed from Grandpa and Third Uncle. With Grandpa's upright and honest nature, Third Uncle's straightforward character, they would probably want to return it to the Tang family. In addition, if any slip of the tongue were to occur, then the resulting trouble would be huge. It would be better for me to tell them after using the Xian core on Third Uncle or Grandpa. That is right, I will hand them a done deal. That way, we can silently prosper. The divine powers that Jun Xie has was the result of practicing the art of unlocking heaven's fortune and was fundamentally different from the cultivation of Xian Qi. Jun Xie believed correctly that this highly coveted Xian core was of no use to him. However, even though the Xian core was of no use to his practice of the art of unlocking heaven's fortune, it could still help him in other areas. Unfortunately, this newbie still had no idea. Furthermore, should he attend the Gifted Scholars Autumn Festival feast tomorrow? He thought about it while walking onwards. After walking for who knew how far, he finally decided. Feeling around for his flying knives, he sighed. After the confrontation that occurred last time, he had understood that the self-made flying knives were not very effective against the Xian Qi experts of this world. Even though the opponent was merely a silver Xian expert, the flying daggers ended up being broken and bent. What would happen if the opponent was at the gold Xian or jade Xian level? When thinking about such a possibility, Jun Xie broke out in cold sweat. The one thing he could be certain of was that with the current quality of iron, the flying knives produced were insufficient against a highly capable master. At least, it did not have the ability to inflict fatal wounds. Since Jun Xie's strength has yet to be improved to a great level, he must first create several weapons for him to defend himself. At the very least, the projectile weapons he has must be able to penetrate the defensive strength of a Jade Xian expert's body. This was also Jun Xie's minimum requirement. However, normal iron would not be sufficient in this regard. Jun Xie continued forward with his head lowered as he made his way to the Divine Weapons store. In order to acquire high-quality materials for his self-made flying knives, the Divine Weapons store may be the only place within Tianxiang Kingdom where he could find it. By Jun Xie's calculations, the best material available here would be mysterious iron. Cold iron would be an acceptable replacement if need be. If all else fails, then he would need to resort to fine steel. After parting ways with Jun Xie, eldest young master Tang Yuan excitedly rushed back home. Once he arrived, he immediately requested an audience with his grandfather. For the past few days, Grandfather Tang had been feeling extremely irritable. In addition to having his one pride and joy, the Xian core stolen, there was also no news or leads regarding the case. This made him even more furious. His mind kept thinking back towards Tang Yuan. If not for this debauchee brat's mess with the gambling incident, this would never have happened. The more he thought about it, the more furious he became. He eventually decided to order the servants to summon Tang Yuan here so that he can vent out his fury. Just as he was calling out, a servant suddenly came in to report that the eldest young master was seeking an audience. He became surprised. Disregarding the current situation, meeting this brat was hard even on normal days. These days, Tang Yuan would hide as much as he could, and yet he suddenly had the guts to come forward himself. Could it be that he has gone mad from the scolding? Bring him in. After thinking for a bit, he added. Bring in the iron abacus. Right after he entered, the first thing Tang Yuan saw was the iron abacus, causing his face to turn bitter. What kind of vile problem is it this time? Grandfather Tang was very angry. As he asked, his chin indicated the iron abacus, signaling for Tang Yuan to kneel on it before saying anything. How could he not understand his own grandson? The only reason Tang Yuan would request to meet him would be if he had caused an insoluble problem. If not for this, Tang Yuan would never ever come to him. Tang Yuan's face were filled with bitterness as he sadly knelt down, his belly falling all the way to the ground, causing a clear sound to be heard. What happened? Looking at the belly of his grandson reaching the ground, he found himself unable to become angry. Would it hurt you to lose some weight? Or have you resigned yourself to becoming a pig? Tang Yuan was originally excited as he thought of making a huge contribution. But after receiving such a kind of treatment, he became dejected. Looking at his own belly, he solemnly replied. It is not like I wanted to be this fat. Having received your scolding for the past few days, I could not even eat properly. But, even if I only drink water. Enough. Just tell me why you came here. Grandfather Tang felt angry and yet felt like laughing. Don't talk nonsense, just what kind of trouble did you cause this time? Grandpa, Tang Yuan suddenly became excited as he thought of what Jun Moxie said about him being free from this miserable circumstance. Unable to help himself, he stood up, ignoring the furious expression on his grandfather's face. Grandpa, I think I may have found a lead on the stolen Xian core. Oh. Grandfather Tang, who was originally about to become enraged and planned to have Tang Yuan kneel down again, became surprised. His eyes bulged widely as he ignored what happened earlier. Quick, spit out what you know. Ever since the day the Xian core was stolen, grandchild has been plagued with worry day and night. For the past few days, I devoted all my concern, my mind and skill into this matter. I threw both my heart and soul into it as I racked my brains to think and analyze what happened. I drained myself of mind and body to pore through all possibilities carefully, ensuring that I squeeze every last effort I could muster. Tang Yuan showed a sincere expression on his face, as though he had decided to turn over a new leaf and become a better person. Stop! Stop, stop, stop! Grandfather Tang shouted angrily. Would you prefer to kneel down on that before telling me what happened? He pointed at the iron abacus. Tang Yuan became startled. Today, I went out looking for clues. Then, in the Drunken Immortal establishment, I met the Northern City clan leader, Qin Hu. Qin Hu's son, Qin Xiaobao. That Qin Xiaobao was being arrogant and overbearing as he bullied the innocent commoners. Seeing this, grandchild could not help but become angry. Due to grandpa's teachings, grandchild was unable to put up with his despicable ways. The anger in my heart rose to the heavens, and the winds accompanied me as I stepped forward to fight in the name of righteousness and to save the weak. When chancing upon injustice, one must take up arms to offer assistance, fighting for the sake of righteousness with a heroic heart, for the people and for the country. After that, Qin Hu brought a number of men to make a fuss. But when he found out it was me, he panicked. Tang Yuan's ability to flaunt his own actions were truly extraordinary. Every word he uttered painted him in good light. Nonsense! Who is Qin Hu? Does he have the ability to provoke us? How can he not panic? Is this your so-called lead? Grandfather Tang scoffed out. What kind of nonsensical lead is this? And here I was actually putting hope into the words of this useless grandson of mine. Hearing Tang Yuan's words of self-praise, Grandfather Tang's face had turned black and swollen from anger. Grandpa, if Qin Hu had panicked right from the start, then I would understand. But, he actually did not show any such reaction at the beginning. It was only after I mentioned that a theft had happened in our house that Qin Hu's expression changed, as though he had met a ghost. Tang Yuan put on the air of a master detective as he slowly deduced. Externally, everyone believes that only money and jewelry were stolen from our house. This was the reason we gave to seek out the thieves. Under such circumstances, this matter would have no relations with Qin Hu at all. So, why then would he show such a shocked expression? Grandchild believes that there is something odd within all this. It might even be possible that Qin Hu was the one who committed this crime. Chapter 53, Meeting Xiaoyi again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 053, Meeting Xiaoyi again. Regular chapter. Grandfather Tang squinted his eyes, a glint flashing within his eyes. Continue. That is all, Tang Yuan replied abruptly. That is all. You piece of crap. You dare say that is all after reaching the main point. Do you have a death wish? Grandfather Tang became greatly angered and lashed out with a kick on Tang Yuan's buttocks. With just this little bit, how could you be certain that Qin Hu's Northern City clan have anything to do with the theft case? What exactly happened? Tell me everything from the beginning. If there are any parts that are unclear, I will rip out your fat skin. Tang Yuan became frustrated. Seeing that he cannot bluff his way out, he obediently reported everything that had happened. Grandfather Tang squinted his eyes as he listened. When he heard about Jun Moxie accusing the Northern City clan being associated with the theft case, he interrupted Tang Yuan and asked. Could it be that bastard Jun Moxie has beef with the Northern City clan? No. How could that be? Considering his character, if he had any grudge with the Northern City clan, he would have flattened that little clan a long time ago. How could Northern City clan still survive if such was the case? Tang Yuan quickly denied. Indeed, Jun Moxie should not be trying to frame Qin Hu. Simply based on the Jun family's power, there was no need for him to push such a matter to our side. However, I am somewhat unable to trust that Jun Moxie. That being said, he should not be someone who could conceive a high-level strategy to harm others. Grandfather Tang stroked his beard. But, Grandpa, the Xian core is simply too important for our family. At a time like this, it is better for us to believe in something than nothing. Seeing his plans about to come to fruition, Tang Yuan quickly added. Correct. I would rather believe in something than nothing at all. Besides, it is only small gang from the underworld, can I not move against them? I can just consider this an act of helping the common people in getting rid of a nest of evils. Grandfather Tang violently stood up. Saying that the Northern City clan is connected to the theft case based on that incident alone is indeed far-fetched. However, the great clans within the city had been acting over the line recently. Especially this Northern City clan, I hear that they have done no small number of evil deeds. In addition, the investigation into the Xian core had omitted these few clans. Since that is the case, I might as well catch those from Northern City clan and interrogate them first. Hopefully, we can find a lead there. Grandfather Tang thought about it. Even though he did not place much hopes into it, if there was even a glimmer of hope, then he had to at least check it out. Relay my orders, all those at the 9th level Xian Qi and above are to assemble immediately. We will be taking action tonight. Remember, until the matter is over, they must not kill senselessly. I need information from them. Understood. Tang Yuan was overjoyed. Third young Master Jun's method was indeed amazing. His grandfather's treatment towards him had already changed. This plan from Jun Xia was fundamentally born of his distaste for the Northern City clan. Those that earn the evil monarch's ire can forget about living a good life. However, Jun Xia had too many concerns about the aftermath of moving against them by himself. Thus, he pushed this matter onto Tang Yuan. As for Tang Yuan, the reason he accepted this role was simply to make his life more bearable. He could no longer stand being treated like a mouse in his own house, being beaten and cursed at every day. As for Grandfather Tang, he decided to act on it because he was holding on to the hope that it was related to the Xian core. After all, having hope is better than having no hope. Besides, he could also use this opportunity to wipe out a harmful group for the sake of the common people. No matter what result this incident brought, as long as he could publicize the list of crimes that the Northern City clan had committed, the reputation of the Tang family would rise by one level. That way, his actions would gain the support of the masses. Besides, Northern City clan was the weakest amongst the 6 great clans, they do not have any supporting powers behind them. Moving against them was something that required no discretion. In addition, there was a possibility of a pleasant surprise if it turned out that this action would bring a potential lead towards the Xian core. However, Jun Xia, Tang Yuan and Grandfather Tang did not know something. They did not know that this action from their side was a truly lucky strike. This would become an unexpected pleasant surprise for them. Everything would come together on this very evening. As for Li Yuren's arrangement to have Qin Hu investigate Jun Xia, his instructions had only just arrived for Qin Hu. Unfortunately, now that Grandfather Tang had mobilized his forces, it would appear that Li Yuren's plans would be foiled yet again. Without any warning or reason, his plans would be broken apart. All because of 2 debauches, one who could not stand the existence of Northern City clan, while the other wanted to escape from his miserable situation. These 2 selfish debauches ended up foiling a highly detailed plan made after countless analyses by Li Yuran. Could this actually be the will of heaven? Jun Xia proceeded slowly along the way. The divine weapons store was just ahead. Before the shop was a luxurious carriage bearing a crest with 2 crossed swords. This was the special crest belonging only to the Dugu family. Someone from the Dugu family was here. Jun Xia was shocked but did not pay any heed to it as he slowly strode inside. If this was the debauchee, Jun Moxie, he would not dare to cross paths with a member of the Dugu family. However, Jun Xia was different. What does he need to fear from the Dugu family? Dear young master, what kind of weapon are you looking for? As he entered the shop, a middle-aged man came forth. There were no small number of young masters like Jun Xie within the city. All of them favored the habit of carrying a magnificent-looking sword. However, these swords only serve as a decorative item with no real ability to kill. Naturally, these weapons' practicality would be questionable. I am not here to buy ready-made weapons. I am here to inquire, do you have cold iron for sale? Price is not a problem. Jun Xie laughed out, portraying a look of wealth and power. The man's eyes flashed as he thought to himself. I thought this kid is a debauchee. Could it be that he is actually an experienced professional? I cannot afford to make this mistake. He appraised Jun Xie once more before replying. It turns out that young master here is a professional. However, our shop currently does not have any cold iron, as it is too hard to procure. Would 100 tempered steel iron suffice instead? Jun Xie chuckled and replied. If it has truly been tempered 100 times. Then it would suffice, however, this 100 tempered steel iron. Has it truly been tempered 100 times? The middle-aged man's face showed an awkward expression of embarrassment. Young master here is a true experienced professional. Even though my shop's 100 tempered iron has only been tempered around 10 times, the quality is indeed above average. Even if it is to be compared to the others around the world, it can be considered one of the best. 10 times. I understand. In that case, what about mysterious iron? Do you have any? Jun Xie sighed. How terrible. Could it be that this place's level of technology was actually behind Earth by 10,000 years? Putting hopes into their forging methods would be pointless. As of right now, all he could do was search for special metals. When it comes to special metals, mysterious iron was the best. None. The middle-aged man wiped his sweat. Why was this man asking for all sorts of materials that was hard to procure? He suddenly remembered something. A few days ago, we received a piece of meteoric iron. Would that suffice, meteoric iron? Jun Xie's eyes lit up. Let's go and have a look. When asking for the mysterious iron back then, Jun Xie was only hoping for a what if. He had fully expected there to be none. Unexpectedly, there was a meteoric iron. Even though mysterious iron was rare, the rarity of meteoric iron was even higher. It seemed that his luck was quite good. Jun Xie followed the middle-aged man through the storeroom as they walked into the store behind the shop. Before they reached the storeroom, however, a clear voice could be heard from within. Excellent. I want this meteoric iron. The owner of the voice was someone that Jun Moxie had feared the most, Dugu Xiaoyi of the Dugu family. Why am I bumping into her everywhere? Scary. Jun Xie's heart became anxious, he quickly stepped through the door. Without waiting for anyone to say anything, he quickly opened his mouth. Ha ha ha. Miss Dugu, I did not expect that we would meet again here. This must be fate. It is you. Jun Moxie. Dugu Xiaoyi turned around, her eyes sparkled as she straightened her chest. Jun Moxie, you are too abnormal. Why is it that I would end up bumping into you all the time, just like a clingy ghost? How peculiar. Suddenly, she jumped, pushing her face before Jun Xie, asking viciously. Jun Moxie, you are not stalking me on purpose, are you? Chapter 54, You want the big one, I want the small one. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 054 You want the big one, I want the small one. Regular chapter. Miss Dugu, aren't you putting too high an evaluation on yourself? Jun Xie could not help himself as he blurted out, stabbing Dugu Xiaoyi with those words. If I had wanted to find a female companion, would have gone to the Soapy Rouge establishment. The number of beauties there is nothing to laugh about. Not to mention, those beauties are tender and each. Dugu Xiaoyi's pretty white face turned furious, her delicate hands twisted Jun Xie's arms, her pair of beautiful eyes stared at him as she asked, each word spoken with emphasis. "What did you say?" "A gentleman fight with words and not their hands," Jun Xie said in a stern and righteous manner. With a bitter face, he continued. "Elder sister, please go easy on me, there is no need to tire your delicate hands on my account." "Humph, speak up. What ulterior motives do you have for following me? Speak quickly. If you do not, then I cannot guarantee the safety of your ears." Dugu Xiaoyi did not loosen her grip at all. Jun Xie was well aware that this little girl was a woman of her words, having no fear for consequences. Turning around, Jun Xie smiled. Wasn't Miss Dugu planning to buy a piece of iron? Since that is the case, how about if this little brother help you buy it? You. Dugu Xiaoyi suddenly recalled that Jun Xie had won so much precious treasures back then but had not given her any at all. Thinking about it, her heart became annoyed and her anger flared up. Obviously you are the one who should pay for it. Back then, the both of us partnered together and won so much money, but you haven't given me my share. If not for my good luck, could you have won so much? Since you have won so much precious stuff thanks to my luck, then you might as well take this opportunity to repay me. After saying that, she suddenly laughed. She held out her hands, using it to make a measurement as her cute pair of teeth became exposed. I want to make a short sword, about this length. It will be a very thin one that I can keep hidden in my sleeve. It is good, don't you think so? Jun Xie's heart perspired, this little girl sure can talk. All she did was become a witness. She played across the board, winning 20,000 silver liangs, after which she snatched up at least 100 silver liangs worth of bills. Now, her role had suddenly transformed into that of a partner, and all that happened only occurred because of her good luck. In order to create a small knife, she wanted the whole piece of meteoric iron. What would one call the act of destroying a precious treasure? This little girl here could be considered a standard example. The piece of meteoric iron was approximately the size of 2 basketballs. Its entire body exuded a strange color, seemingly similar to the special color exuded by aluminium alloy from Jun Xie's past life. However, it was clearly more pure in quality, it also sported irregular patterns on its surface. With just a glance, Jun Xie judged that it was of a higher quality compared to mysterious iron. It was at this moment that Jun Xie made the decision. No matter what I have to do, be it swindling or extortion, I must obtain this piece of meteoric iron. Something of such good quality could only shine when placed in this master's hands. Boss, how much does this piece of scrap iron cost? Using his legs, Jun Xie slovenly kicked the block of basketball-sized meteoric iron, his mouth crooked and his eyes slanted as he asked. This caused the middle-aged man who led him inside to become surprised. This young master had just spoken with him earlier while giving off the impression of an experienced professional, his demeanor and manner of speech calm. But how was it that after meeting this beautiful young lady, he would suddenly transform into such a disgusting-looking person? What kind of game was he playing? Could this be what they call going crazy over a beauty? What a source of calamity! Beauties are truly the root of all calamities. Young master, this piece was found out. The boss was a slightly hunched old man. Without waiting for him to continue, Jun Xie interrupted him in an impatient manner. Do not talk nonsense, all you need to do is state your price. This young master has nothing but money. If something catches my attention, then even a rotten iron would become a treasure. As for this scrap iron, just state your price. I understand, in order to be able to open a shop within the capital city, the boss was a man of experience. He could clearly see that the young master before him was likely one of those highly prestigious debauches. How could someone like him provoke one of these assortments of demon kings? He quickly replied. This iron's origin is extraordinary. It is valued at 80,000 silver liangs. In addition, if young master and miss here wish for us to forge it into a weapon for you, then it would require an additional 5,000 silver liangs. Oh. 80,000 liangs. So cheap. This young master will buy it. Jun Xie put on the expression of someone who had so much money that he even forgot his own name. He then kicked another block of iron. What about this broken stuff? Jun Xie radiated an overbearing aura. However, the block of iron he indicated was no ordinary iron. It was a piece of finely tempered steel iron, its size far outstripped that of the meteoric iron, its body exuding a dark red color. This is a piece of 100 tempered steel iron. Even though it is not as good as the meteoric iron, it would still cost 2,000 liangs, the boss answered almost immediately. He could clearly observe that this senseless young master before him was a very impatient one. The price of 2,000 liangs was enough for at least 3 families to live without worry for one whole generation. This price was indeed quite expensive. As for the 80,000 liangs earlier, it was simply an astronomical amount for the common people. However, when placed before these prodigal debauches, this price was but a strand of hair from 9 oxen. Not expensive, in fact, it is quite cheap. Jun Xie waved his hands. I will buy it all. He pulled out a stack of silver bills from his bosom. Those were none other than the winnings from the other day. He spat out some saliva, then moistening his fingers on his lips, he pulled out 90,000 worth in silver bills. He slapped the bills on his hands with a resounding "pa." Here is 90,000 liangs, no need for change. Dugu Xiaoyi was observing all this from the side, her face slowly changed from a smile to disappointment. Slowly, she felt coldness appear in her heart. A look of disgust appeared on her face, a strange sensation filling her heart. Back then, I thought he had changed. It seems he is still the same debauchee. Sigh. One hand was paying money, while the other hand received the goods. Jun Xie quickly finished the transaction for both blocks of iron. As of now, the 2 blocks of iron had belonged to Jun Xie alone. With a cold face, Dugu Xiaoyi asked. Third young master Jun, since you have paid for it, isn't it time for you to hand over the iron to me? In her heart, she felt a pang of regret. If she knew that he was still the same old person, why would she let him pay for it? In the end, it caused her to become unhappy. If I had wanted to find someone to help me pay for it, there are the princes, the young masters from the noble families, officials' families. Would someone like Jun Moxie get the chance? What a loss of face. Still, meteoric iron is a rare material. I might as well just put up with him a little longer. Indeed. That is only natural. Jun Xie laughed. Miss Dugu, there are 2 blocks of iron here. You want the big one and I want the small one. Am I truly honored to be able to help Miss Dugu pay for it, huh? What did you just say? Dugu Xiaoyi was just about to head towards the block of meteoric iron when she heard something wrong. She could not help herself as her beautiful eyes widened, she almost could not believe her own ears. I want the big one. You want the small one. Did he become an idiot? The small one is the meteoric iron from outer space. The big one is the 100 tempered steel iron. Even though the quality is considerable, when compared to the meteoric iron, it is basically comparing the heavens and earth. What do I want a normal tempered steel iron for? Indeed, Jun Xie answered naturally. Just look, I have already bought up those 2 scrap iron. But I have no need for a lot, only a small amount is enough for me. If I am to take the big one, then it would go to waste. As the saying goes, pink is the present for beauties. Naturally, this big block of iron must be gifted to beauties as well. Naturally, that beauty is none other than Miss Dugu here. Ah. Of course, if Miss Dugu feels that it is insufficient, then I can just buy up more for you. All of them only cost a few thousand apiece, simply cheap stuff. How about I buy up 10 of them and get a carriage to send it over to your residence? Dugu Xiaoyi's whole body suddenly shivered in rage. She finally understood what was happening. It turned out that Jun Moxie was also aiming for the meteoric iron. However, he was worried that she would finish the transaction first. Thus, he had proposed paying for it. And now that the transaction was done, he actually wanted to give her a block of ordinary tempered steel iron. Chapter 55, Playing the Rogue. For once you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 055, Playing the Rogue. For once. Sponsored chapter. Sponsored by Sud K from Dubai. Big thanks to the sponsor for the support. Scrap iron. Why don't you try find me a few of these scrap iron? This despicable Jun Moxie. Using the excuse of paying for me, he tricked me to gain possession of the meteoric iron. It just so happened that she was also not thinking clearly at the moment and forgot to mention which one she wanted. Jun Moxie. Dugu Xiaoyi screamed, her pretty eyes bulging out widely. Are you tired of living? BDNV, I'm innocent. Jun Xie spread out his arms as he shrugged, his face a mix of roguishness and innocence. What are you talking about, Miss Dugu? Of these two, I have already given you the bigger one. What else do you want? You want to buy iron, and I helped you pay for it. And yet, you say I am tired of living. You are being too unjust towards me. Very good. Very good indeed. Jun Moxie, you sure have guts. But you better make sure that you do not end up in my hands. I will never forgive you. Dugu Xiaoyi's chest rose up and down, as she was angered to the point of tears. She bit her plump lips as her whole body trembled. The tears within her eyes rolled about before finally falling down. Jun Xie felt rather awkward. After all, the iron was one that Dugu Xiaoyi had wanted first. But he had used the excuse of paying it for her to pocket it instead. Using such an underhanded means to trick a little girl simply felt wrong. He tried to comfort her. What are you crying for? How about this? When I am forging weapons from the iron, I will make a precious blade for you as well. After that, I will send it straight to your residence. So, let us just call it even, all right. Is this how you comfort people? Who wants your blade? Dugu Xiaoyi did not know that Jun Xie was actually making a promise with her and thought that he was ridiculing her. She finally broke down in tears, her heart grieving non-stop. This iron was obviously mine in the first place. You woo-woo. Truthfully, Dugu Xiaoyi was not crying due to the loss of the meteoric iron. Even though meteoric iron was rare, it was not too difficult to obtain considering the power and influence of the Dugu family. The real reason she was crying was because of Jun Moxie's detestable actions. Putting on the airs of a debauchee, he had interrupted her in the midst of her purchase, then buying those 2 blocks of iron without letting others finish. His actions turned everything into a complete mess, and once everything was done, he offered a piece of garbage to her. To add salt to injury, he even put on a pious expression as he said, "You want the big one and I want the small one. How can this kind of item be valued using size?" Of course, the biggest reason for her to despise him was that she actually fell for it. She herself became confused after seeing his pretentious portrayal of a debauchee and ended up being tricked by him. Beads of tears fell down her face, signifying just how heartbroken Dugu Xiaoyi was feeling. She looked at Jun Xie, who was standing there like a wooden pole. He is not even bothering to come over to comfort me. This made Dugu Xiaoyi even sadder. She started bawling her eyes out. Ugh, stop crying, your face becomes screwed up when you cry, you end up looking ugly. Jun Xie frowned, his eyes squinting. Apparently, this was how he intended to console her. I want to cry. I don't need you to care. You. Who did you say is ugly? The word ugly is a taboo for girls. There were things in this world which could be endured, and there are also things in this world which could not be endured. Dugu Xiaoyi suddenly stopped crying, her eyes glaring viciously at Jun Xie. In an instant, anger rose up from within her heart, and from the anger came a loathing. She caught hold of Jun Xie's arm, opened up her small mouth and bit Jun Xie's arm. After biting into his arm, she broke down again and continued crying. Ouch! Jun Xie's facial muscles twitched as he gritted his teeth, hissing. Screw you! Dugu Xiaoyi looked at him through eyes filled with tears as she sobbed. You! What did you just say? She did not hear it clearly. Jun Xie shrugged, spreading his arms as he bared his teeth in pain. Dugu Xiaoyi then continued sobbing. Jun Xie scratched his head, shrugged his shoulders, spread his arms and proceeded to do nothing. In his past life, Jun Xie was an assassin and rarely had anything to do with romance. If there was any extra conditions, they were usually related to money. Once the job was completed, he will lock eyes with his client, then parted ways without forming any sort of relations. He has absolutely no understanding of the heart of females and no knowledge on how to console females. Thus, even when observing Dugu Xiaoyi's crying state, he did not bother to step forward to try consoling her. He had given up any efforts to do so in the first place. If you want to cry, then just go ahead. Crouching on the ground, he carefully checked the quality of the meteoric iron. The longer he inspected it, the more satisfied he felt. He then used his hands to lift it up. Even though it was only slightly bigger than a basketball, it was still weighed at around 200 jin, 121 kilograms. He chuckled twice in satisfaction. If this block of meteoric iron were used to forge his flying daggers, they would be unbreakable and strong. He had found a real gem this time, even though his method of obtaining it was rather underhanded. As he was feeling intoxicated from happiness, his buttocks suddenly felt pain, akin to having the meteoric iron block slammed onto his ass. After that, he heard Dugu Xiaoyi's sobbing sound as she quickly ran out, leaving a string of tears on the ground. It turned out that after she saw Jun Xie completely ignoring her, turning around to inspect the meteoric iron, Dugu Xiaoyi became even more resentful. She fiercely kicked his buttocks once before running away while crying. Gently touching his ass, Jun Xie became infuriated. Seeing that Dugu Xiaoyi had already left, Jun Xie took a deep breath and cursed out. Screw your mother, you little girl. If you ever fall into my hands, I will censored. Censored. Censored, humph. Truthfully, even though Jun Xie's current strength was nowhere near Dugu Xiaoyi's, in a battle of life and death, Dugu Xiaoyi, who only had a small amount of experience, was no match for Jun Xie. However, this was also the root of his problem. In his past life, Jun Xie had only trained himself in the fastest and most vicious methods of killing. Each technique was meant to take life. Even when he was exchanging moves with acquaintances. Thus, when fighting normally, Jun Xie was simply unable to fight at full capacity, making the situation extremely unfavorable for him. Once in his past life, some of Jun Xie's martial brothers had requested him to give some pointers through a spar. He replied, "Do not ask me for a spar, I do not know how to fight, I only know how to kill." How could he engage in a battle of life and death against Dugu Xiaoyi? Be it her family background or her temper, neither one was something that would allow Jun Xie to kill Dugu Xiaoyi. In addition, she is known as the nemesis of debauches. This proved that she is a female of certain character. Furthermore, there was also the fact that the previous Jun Moxie was simply too much of a useless scum. Straightening himself, he turned towards the shopkeeper and asked, "Boss, if this piece of meteoric iron is to be handed to your shop for weapon forging, how many times can you temper it?" The old shopkeeper contemplated momentarily before replying. "My humble shop had once had the opportunity to work with this type of meteoric iron. After getting rid of the impurity, my shop could continue tempering up to 3 times. The finished product could radiate traces of circling wind clouds upon its surface, its radiance would discharge a chilling aura. If utilized for forging of weapons, then the weapon would certainly be extremely sharp. Could it reach the state of cutting through iron like mud? Jun Xie asked. No, the edges of the old shopkeeper's mouth curled as he simply answered. Cutting through iron like mud. This little brat has been listening to too many legends. Since that is the case, why do you call yourself Divine Weapons Store? What kind of divine weapons cannot cut through iron like mud? Jun Xie stared at him with a gaze that gave off a feeling of being cheated. The old shopkeeper suddenly felt the urge to turn upwards to shout the words, "Injustice." Young master, I am afraid there have been a misunderstanding. The so called cutting through iron like mud. That is simply a mythical legend for the properties of a divine weapon. Besides, even if a weapon is a genuine divine weapon, one must consider the strength of its wielder. Only a capable person would be able to utilize it to cut through iron like mud. As for the divine weapon that can cut through iron like mud even when wielded by the common people, there is none in the whole world. Oh. Your words are quite logical. Jun Xie suddenly recalled the words. When true mastery is attained, even a blade of grass could become a sword. He could not help it as he shook his head. What nonsense! Once such a kind of mastery has been attained, why would I need a sharp sword? I want a sharp sword because my level of strength had yet to achieve a satisfactory level. Never mind then, I will think of something else, Jun Xie sighed. Please send these materials to the Jun residence. It turned out this was the one from the Jun family. No wonder he was so prodigal. The old shopkeeper agreed as he wiped his sweat, his heart on the other hand rejoiced. Even though this young master was a debauchee, at least he did not make any unreasonable demands. Since you want to handle it yourself, that would be for the best. Only, what a pity. Pity this meteoric iron. As for that legendary divine weapon, there is none in this world. Asking me to forge out something like that would kill me. Observing Jun Xie's back as he left, the old shopkeeper shouted inwardly. A debauchee like you actually want to forge your own sword. If you can truly forge one out, this senior will stop walking with my legs. I will walk using my penis. Chapter 56, Who is Following Me? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 056 Who is Following Me? Sponsored chapter. Sponsored by Luke Collins from Australia. Thank you so much for the support. After turning, Jun Xie exited the shop and walked home. It was not that the Jun family did not have any carriages. In fact, the Jun family carriages were quite luxurious. However, Jun Xie had always preferred walking with his own two legs. The subconsciousness from his past life as an assassin could only feel true safety when walking using his own 2 feet. Regardless of whether it was a car or a boat, traveling through them would cause a feeling to arise, a feeling that his own fate was not within his own hands. This was a feeling that Jun Xie could not overlook, as it would make him feel uncomfortable. This was Jun Xie's habit. His own fate must rest within his own hands. He even sent away the bodyguards that Grandpa Jun arranged for him a long time ago. Jun Xie was well aware that those bodyguards beside him were only there for show at best. No matter where he went, there would certainly be someone following him secretly. And the one that was following him in secret was the real expert. Even Jun Xie had never seen this person. Jun Xie's current level of cultivation was insufficient to locate him. However, he had been able to clearly feel that person's presence since the day Grandpa Jun put him on his tail. This feeling came from the senses unique to a top assassin. Even though there was no reason for him to believe that was the case, Jun Xie had absolute faith in his judgment. As of now, Jun Xie found himself becoming highly interested in the person who was secretly tailing him. Even though his current level of strength was far from comparable to that of his past life, his current spiritual sense had already surpassed that of his past life by several times. He had tried many times to get rid of this tail, using his own counter-tracking methods. And yet, this person could continue tracking him like an inseparable shadow. Such a capable person was truly rare. From an external point of view, Jun Xie seemed to be wandering aimlessly. However, his spiritual senses were spread out, coordinating his every actions carefully, tantamount to flowing quicksilver, pervading through every corner. Furthermore, even though Jun Xie's movement speed was not fast, anyone who was trying to track him would realize that each change in direction and each movement forward or backward that Jun Xie made was one that was completely unexpected. If the one following him was an average individual, they would have lost sight of Jun Xie's shadow a long time ago. However, the one following Jun Xie had not been shaken off, not even once. Truthfully, the one tailing Jun Xie had already cried out bitterly to the heavens countless times in his heart. When Grandpa Jun requested him to protect his grandson without him noticing, he had agreed in a heartbeat. In his opinion, all he had to do was protect a debauchee who spent most of his time doing nothing. How hard could it be? With his level of experience and skill, he was confident that this Jun Xie would never realize that someone was tailing him even if he were to tail Jun Xie for the rest of his life. Who could have guessed that after 2 days, this top-level tracker would end up feeling hammered? The actions of this brat before him were completely beyond common sense. When he believed that Jun Xie was moving to the east, Jun Xie would suddenly change directions. When he tracked him back, thinking that Jun Xie had gone to the west, he would suddenly find that Jun Xie had instead gone south. This person could be considered an existence close to the pinnacle in the tracking profession. And yet, in merely 2 days, he had made several mistakes in tracking Jun Xie's movement directions. If not for the fact that Jun Xie's level of cultivation was too low, he would have been left in the dust a long time ago. After committing several errors in succession, he became depressed to the point of insanity. Several strands of his beard have been plucked out. There were several occasions where he simply felt the desire to jump out, grab the brat's collar area and ask, "You son of a bitch! Why are you going through the east gate and exiting through the west gate of this establishment and that? Wandering around here and there, just what were you thinking? Could you not behave yourself? Could it be that this debauchee brat had found me out?" Just as he thought about this, he would immediately deny this possibility. Just by observing his debauched demeanor, anyone could tell that this brat has no ability to find out about me. The reason he is acting this way is obviously because he simply has no idea what he himself wants to do. As he was contemplating, he suddenly realized that Jun Xie had increased his pace and walked into a rouge watercolor shop. He could not help but let out a pooh in his heart. As expected of a debauchee, he would even barge into a place meant for women. Unexpectedly, Jun Xie did not come out even after a while. Becoming impatient, he went nearby and stole a glance into the shop only to find that Jun Xie was not in the shop. He could not help but become depressed. It turns out that this brat had left using the back door. How could I be so stupid? How could I not have thought of this? Like the wind, he sped towards the back door to search for Jun Xie. After the distance between the man and himself became considerable, Jun Xie finally determined that the aura of the person tracking him had fully dissipated. After which he slowly waltzed out of the rouge watercolor shop. Bowing courteously, he thanked them, then backtracked his way and marched off. A few of the females within the shop stared at him with wide-opened eyes. This handsome-looking young master seemed rather healthy. Why is it that he would suddenly have a stomach ache after entering this shop? In addition, he also occupied the toilet for so long. We were almost unable to hold it in anymore. The sky slowly became dark as the sun slowly descended. The evening atmosphere was left to worry by itself as the shadow of the night opened its grim jaws. It awaited the moment when the last vestiges of light has faded so that it may devour the entire world. Jun Xie walked for a bit before suddenly backtracking and turning into another path. He then turned towards the back door of the rouge watercolor shop, and continued using that direction. He chuckled triumphantly in his heart. It seemed that I would be sending him spinning today. In jungle hunting, this senior is the most accomplished in this area. If I could not even defeat a wooden club like you, that would really be weird. Little kiddo, you are way too tender to be going up against me. As Jun Xie expected, after that person went to chase after Jun Xie, he could not find any trace of Jun Xie. He immediately realized that he was duped. He immediately returned to the shop like a gust of wind. He searched high and low in all directions before standing alone before the Rouge watercolor shop. Observing the people coming in and out, his face was a mix of green and red. It was as though he was opening a dye shop. His whole body felt powerless. Dominating the world for decades, his tracking techniques had never failed before. Today, however, he had actually lost to a little inexperienced brat. In addition, the brat was an ignorant and incompetent debauchee. This was simply the biggest joke in the whole world. His heart cried out. I have completely lost my face this time. How shameful. What a completely unexpected situation. Jun Zhantian, just what kind of grandchild did you raise? How could he be so heretical? Jun Xie laughed, feeling very pleased. Although he knew that the person following him did not hold any malice against him, he was someone who preferred acting independently. To have someone following him around like a ghost simply left an unspeakable distaste in him. In short, it simply made him feel uncomfortable. Now that he had gotten rid of the tail, he finally felt relaxed. Suddenly, Jun Xie's body, which was walking, became stiff for a moment. He then relaxed his body. His shoulder muscles quivered once and a flying dagger slipped down onto the palm of his hand. A few chilling aura which brought with it a cold feeling of darkness converged from various directions. Their target was none other than the street that Jun Xie was currently traveling on. This aura was one he had encountered before in his past life, one he was very familiar with. Assassins. Seriously. I had just gotten rid of the one sent to protect me, only to end up walking into an assassination attempt right after. If I really end up getting killed here, won't this become a joke? Did I commit a self-defeating move? Jun Xie laughed bitterly in his heart. However, an undeniable feeling of excitement, which had been long absent, rose from the depths of his heart. Secretly bringing the scent of blood, finally, I will finally be able to see my fellow peers in this world. I hope that you do not make me disappointed. The sound of neat footsteps was heard from the front as a group of people approached. In the middle of these people was a sedan chair. The sedan chair was colored in a clear yellow with pearls hanging down from the sides. Hanging below the string of pearls was a golden bell. The bell swayed lightly, issuing a clear ringing sound. Listening to the ringing sound would make anyone feel pleased. This was the imperial sedan chair of the royal court's Princess Ling Meng. Could it be that the one that these people wanted to kill is not me? The target is actually Princess Ling Meng. Jun Xie contemplated through it within his heart and felt that there was a high possibility of this being the case. For him to come into this street was simply something done at the spur of the moment. If these assassins had wanted to kill him, there were places that were far more suitable back then. There was no reason for the assassins to follow him all the way until now before taking action. However, to assassinate Princess Ling Meng in the open when she was still so near the imperial palace, just what kind of people would have such a high level of courage? Chapter 57, Assassins. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Here's 2 bonus chapters. Chapter 057 Assassins. Princess Ling Meng is the current emperor's most beloved daughter, someone whom His Majesty would pamper greatly, treating her as though she was a part of him. If Princess Ling Meng were to be assassinated, who could imagine just how furious and saddened His Majesty would become? These people were actually capable of taking on the fury of His Majesty, the Emperor. Jun Xie did not have any time to further consider this as Princess Ling Meng's entourage had arrived before him. The 2 waiting ladies at the front saw Jun Moxie standing before them without any movements whatsoever, their faces turned into an expression of extreme disgust. They lightly moved towards the sedan chair and whispered a few words into it. The person within the sedan chair said a few words and the entourage stopped. Then, the curtains of the sedan chair were opened. The face of a beautiful girl wearing light yellow palace clothing was revealed through the window. The face showed some impatience, but the impatience was restrained as she asked. "June Moxie, why are you standing in my way today?" "Standing in your way?" June Xie was shocked. He then looked around and found that he was standing in the middle of the street. It was impossible to expect such a big entourage to make a detour for his sake. Besides, this was the princess entourage. It made sense to say that he was the one standing in their way. From June Moxie's memories, June Xie had known of Princess Ling Meng's existence, but had never seen her in person. After seeing her for the first time today, he could not help but give an applause. It was no wonder that June Moxie would become obsessed with her. She was a heavenly beauty, one that could rock the world. A soft white complexion, arched eyebrows, crystal clear eyes like the clear surface of autumn waters, an oval face, flowing black hair, her entire being exuded a noble and holy aura. She seemed to be in existence beyond the realm of mortals, a beauty like none other, just like a pure water lotus flower. "Your Highness, where are you planning to go?" It was then that June Xie realized that before him was the imperial palace. Princess Ling Meng had only just exited the imperial palace, only to bump into assassins. What does this mean? Something was obviously not right. After realizing this, June Xie immediately felt the need to move his legs and run away as far as possible. With the current state of the June family, it would be unwise for them to interfere with the royal family's internal strife. Looking at Princess Ling Meng's protective detail, June Xie judged that their ability to keep her alive was minimal. It appeared that this incredible beauty was about to perish in the hands of the assassins. Even though June Xie found it to be unfortunate, he did not feel any form of reluctance. After all, protecting himself and his family comes first. "Oh, I am going to the Duga residence to find Xiaoyi." "Third young master June, please make way for me." Princess Ling Meng's face remained calm as she replied. As it turned out, after being duped into losing the meteoric iron by June Xie, Duga Xiaoyi became more frustrated as she kept recalling the incident. Feeling sad, she went to find her good sister, Princess Ling Meng, to let out her feelings. Unfortunately, Princess Ling Meng happened to be together with the Empress in the sleeping chambers of the palace. Thus, Duga Xiaoyi was unable to meet with her. When Princess Ling Meng returned, she found out that her dear sister came over and left while crying. She became worried. Fearful that something big had happened, she quickly arranged to leave for the Duga residence and find out what happened. What exactly could cause this unruly, yet cute and intelligent little sister of hers to become so sad? Who could have guessed that she would end up meeting the culprit right here? June Moxie. Naturally, Princess Ling Meng did not know of this. Otherwise, she might even have this bastard tied up and sent to the Duga residence. June Xie was currently feeling puzzled. He could not feel any commanding and dominating aura of a noble from her. Instead, he felt a peaceful atmosphere. For this gentle atmosphere to appear from a royal princess was something of an unusual occurrence. Understood. Moxie will not disturb your highness anymore, please go ahead. June Xie decided that it would be better for him to have one less problem and went to the side. However, he decided to give her a warning. He gazed profoundly at her and spoke in a deep voice. Be careful along the way. In fact, June Xie's heart was puzzled by an even greater mystery. For a dignified princess of a kingdom, especially considering Princess Ling Meng's status, how could her protective detail be so small? Furthermore, there was no expert accompanying her at all. It was at this time when her level of protection was at its weakest that an assassination attempt would take place. Could there be such a kind of coincidence in this world? The more he thought about it, the more June Xie felt that there was a huge conspiracy hidden beneath this situation. TL. Coincidences, huh? You should talk. A gentleman does not stand below a crumbling wall, an outstanding assassin would flee as far away as possible. Jun Xie is not a person who cherishes beauty or a sympathetic human. Not to mention, he would need to risk his own life for this. He would firmly reject such a kind of deal. Especially considering how this woman only have feelings of disgust for him. No matter how beautiful she may be, even if she is a celestial beauty, so what? Princess Ling Meng was somewhat surprised as she looked at Jun Moxie. From what she recalled of this third young Master Jun, whenever he saw her, he was bound to stalk and annoy her, calling, "Sister, sister." For him to be speaking in such an accommodating manner today was truly rare. However, his actions would allow both sides to maintain their reputation and could be considered a good thing. The princess returned to her seat and the curtain was put down. Looking at her now, one would only see the hazy figure of an extreme beauty, a fleeting dreamlike existence. Within the shadows, someone spoke out urgently. "Boss, the Jun family's debauchee brat, Jun Moxie has suddenly appeared. What do we do now? Do we wait for him to leave or?" A masked man lied upon the roof, his eyes shining with a golden light. "Perfect. Do not miss this chance and finish him off as well. We will let that old Jun Zhantian go crazy as well. This will be a good thing." "Understood." Jun Xie moved to the side as he murmured to himself. Even if one is an aromatic beauty of stunning proportions, they will still rot after death. In the end, all that remains would be a pile of bones, just another part of the soil below. Jun Xie, do not be soft-hearted, standing out now would only bring harm to yourself. Jun Xie finally shook his head and began to leave this dangerous place. It was then that several chilling aura locked onto Jun Xie. Oh, my God! As of now, he could no longer escape even if he wished to. Jun Xie could feel the killing intent directed towards him becoming thicker. How could he not understand that they have already included him in their target list? How could I end up provoking everyone I meet? What an unpredictable calamity. Is this what you people consider collateral damage? I am just someone who happened to pass by. Following the "raise the sedan chair" order, the entourage began moving forward slowly. A number of the bodyguards from the group were extremely courteous as they bowed ceremoniously towards Jun Xie before moving forward. At this moment, Princess Ling Meng, who was seated within the sedan chair, was pondering Jun Xie's last words. "Be careful along the way." This sentence of his was somewhat nondescript. Suddenly, she felt a chill in her heart. Could it be that Jun Moxie knew something? Could he be trying to give me a subtle warning? The chill in her heart grew as she thought about this. She opened her mouth to give the order to stop so that she may ask Jun Moxie about this. It was then the sky turned dark as the endless shade of night enveloped the ground. Behind the darkness of the night, several masked men in black clothing akin to great crows descended from the skies. Even before reaching the ground, tens of sharp blades shot straight towards the sedan chair. Whizzing through the air, the blades emitted golden and silver radiance. Wretched screams could be heard in successions, while the black-clothed men descended upon the bodyguards. Several of the bodyguards reacted by shouting in unison. "Protect the princess!" Each of them stood defensively around the sedan chair, their swords gleaming in the air. The sound of clashing swords resounded non-stop, causing the commoners using the street to scream and run for their lives. Another two masked men in black descended from the roof and headed straight towards Jun Xie. Looking at the color of their bodies' Xian Qi, they were both silver-leveled Xian Qi experts. The current Jun Xie had no way of defeating them, especially when considering their identity as assassins. Chapter 58, Assassinate. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 058 Assassinate. They mobilized two silver-level Xian experts against me. You are giving me quite a high evaluation. Jun Xie laughed bitterly in his heart. To send this kind of expert against a mere debauchee, it seemed that the one who organized this assassination was quite the generous person. 2 gold-level experts and 7 silver-level experts, a total of 9 highly capable Qian-Qi experts. For this group of experts to go against the princess' defenseless entourage which had no experts accompanying them was simply as easy as breaking an egg on a stone. 2 swords, which shone with silver brilliance, stabbed forward. The 2 pair of eyes behind the masks emitted bloodthirst and cruelty. Their strike was meant to kill in one hit. Facing these 2 attacks, a variety of methods to deal with them flashed within Jun Xie's mind. But no matter which method he chose, it would end up exposing his true strength. Jun family's current state was one that gave the emperor assurance. With the Jun family in decline, Jun Wui paralyzed from the waist down, Jun Moxie an incapable debauchee, signified that the Jun family had no successor. This in turn would mean that the aged Jun Zhantian could have no secret ambition. It was only due to this that the emperor would be willing to leave the authority over the entire military in the hands of Jun Zhantian. But if His Majesty were to find out that Jun Moxie was actually a dragon amongst men, the trust within His Majesty's heart would turn into an enormous suspicion. After all, Jun Zhantian's position within the military was simply too terrifying. If Jun Xie were to reveal his strength before the bodyguards of the princess, then it would be tantamount to forcing His Majesty to take action against the Jun family. Thus, he could not. In an instant, Jun Xie made his decision. Jun Xie showed an extremely flustered face as he retreated in a confused manner. Suddenly, his feet seemed to have tripped over something and he tumbled backwards. Seemingly unintentional, this action caused one of the incoming swords to simply graze off his scalp. At the same time, he channeled the art of unlocking heaven's fortune to protect his internal organs, and then forcefully twisted his body, allowing the other sword to pierce sideways into his chest. The wound seemed serious, but in truth, it failed to hurt even his bones. The art of unlocking heaven's fortune circulated through his body, the thick white mist immediately charged into his limbs and every meridians as it quickly restored his body. At the same time, the other assassin delivered 2 flying kicks at Jun Xie. 2 peng were heard as it both landed upon Jun Xie's chest, causing him to groan and cough out a mouthful of blood. Jun Xie fell to the ground while facing the sky, after which he rolled over causing his white robes to be speckled with blood. After rolling over once, he laid there with his face planted on the ground, showing no signs of movements or breathing. The 2 assassins glanced at Jun Xie who was not showing any movement at all, then they rushed towards the besieged sedan chair of Princess Ling Meng. In their minds, Jun Moxie who was the most renowned debauchee playboy in the capital could not possibly have any chance of surviving a sword attack through the chest, in addition to 2 all-out kicks from a silver-leveled Qian-Qi expert. As of now, all of his internal organs should have been crushed, leaving no hope for survival. Thus, neither one of the 2 men had any interest in him after giving him a glance. Neither one of the 2 men noticed that as the 2 kicks landed on Jun Xie's body, a strange pulse burst out from Jun Xie's chest before he fell to the ground. When the 2 kicks landed, his chest area burst out with at least 6 pulses, dispelling a majority of the force behind the kicks. Princess Ling Meng's bodyguards today were the most common amongst the palace guards. Only the 2 leaders were comparatively stronger than the rest, but they were only at the silver level. Under these unprepared circumstances, they had to deal with the attacks from 2 gold-level experts and 7 silver-level experts. They could only become flustered. Even though the number of bodyguards outnumbered the assassins, they were of little use. Strangely, the sedan chair had exhibited no movements or sound since the black swords struck into it. It was unknown whether Princess Ling Meng remained alive nor not. The bodyguards standing before the sedan chair fell one after the other. The 2 masked men in black leading the charge leaped through the air as one, their body radiating a golden glow as they glided through the air akin to an eagle about to snatch up a rabbit, heading towards the sedan chair. The bodyguards became alarmed and shouted loudly. They rushed forwards desperately without any consideration for their own lives, hoping to stop them with their lives. Unfortunately, their opponents were 2 gold-leveled Qian-Qi experts. How could they with their humble level of cultivation stop the 2 experts? The gap in strength between them were simply too high and the bodyguards were pushed back to the left and right, like a sea being parted in half. Instantly, the two masked men in black arrived atop the roof of the sedan chair. Four hands lashed out with a brilliant golden glow, its brilliance burst out in a flash. The magnificent roof of the ornate sedan chair was torn apart, strips of its colorful adorning cloth danced in the air. Under the night sky and the golden light, this scene was a remarkable sight, beautiful yet sorrowful. A black glint flashed as the black swords that were fired into the sedan chair suddenly emerged like a poisonous dragon, shooting out towards the two men in black who were still hovering in the middle of the air. With the flash of swords, the sounds "ka" could be heard as the black projectiles were cut down. At this moment, a slim figure appeared amongst the strips of adorning cloth. The figure, wrapped in a glittering silver radiance, moved with haste and grace. Within Princess Ling Meng's eyes, anger and unwillingness could be seen. Both her hands were equipped with short swords glowing in a bright silver glow, which she used to stab towards the two men in black. This princess, which had the appearance of a weak slender woman, was actually a silver-leveled Xian Qi expert. Unexpectedly, the princess who was only so young could have such a high level of martial talent. In terms of cultivation, she was comparable to the other martial genius Duguxiaoyi. The two men in black gave a snort as they unleashed their sword attacks. "Tu Peng" could be heard before the three of them fell down towards different directions. Princess Ling Meng fell onto the ground, her beautiful face turned bright red momentarily before turning pale. It was obvious that she had suffered from internal injuries. No matter how talented she may be, she is still merely at the beginner stage of the silver level. Even if the two gold-leveled Xian Qi experts had exhausted their strength, a sneak attack by Princess Ling Meng would still end up with her suffering from a bitter loss. An intrinsic difference in quality existed between the silver and gold level. It was not something which could be compared. After enduring the recoil, the two masked men in black charged forth once more. With a step upon the ground, they caused a honk sound and two indentations to appear as they shot forward, traversing through a pace of 30 feet. Their long swords radiated with a golden glitter as they flew mercilessly towards Princess Ling Meng's tender body. Princess Ling Meng had just emerged from the earlier fight with a considerable internal injury, but she had no chance to regain her composure. Having no other alternative, she squeezed out every last ounce of strength to dodge backwards but was still unable to escape the two incoming swords. In addition, as she tried to force out whatever strength she could muster, the Xian Qi within her body became chaotic, going completely beyond her control. It all came together in a random manner, causing a pain comparable to having a sword skewering through her. This resulted in her having no more strength within her body. All of a sudden, she could not help but fall into despair. Could it be that this is how I die? A mournful look of confusion floated upon her beautiful face as she stood quietly, watching the two swords advancing upon her without even trying to dodge anymore. She no longer possessed the strength to dodge. A silver-leveled Xian Qi expert going against a gold-leveled Xian Qi expert, in this case too. Even if she was not injured, even if she was in possession of superb dodging skills, all would be in vain. The swords had closed in on her to the point where Princess Ling Meng could clearly see the cruel expressions of delight upon the eyes of the two men in black. It appeared that those two feel highly satisfied to have the chance to personally kill such a divine beauty. "Your Highness." Several bodyguards howled loudly as they rushed out without a care for their own lives. Unfortunately, it was too late. Was it truly too late? As long as they kill off this beautiful woman, their assignment would be complete. Naturally, they would be able to enjoy an unimaginable amount of wealth and status. All that was required was for this sword of theirs to push forward a little more and everything would be over. Even if she was the daughter of the owner of Jianxiang Kingdom, even if she was a rare martial talent, she would be left without a single breath in her body. The two men in black were well-trained first-rate assassins. As gold-leveled Xian Qi experts, their hearts were poisonous and black, the act of killing was something they do without emotions. However, their current target was a princess, causing a look of ecstasy to leak out from their eyes. As of now, everyone's attention was focused onto Princess Ling Meng. As such, none of them realized that Jun Xie, whom everyone had assumed to be dead on the ground, made a slight motion. A flash shot forth from his fingers, moving upwards through the sky. After flying for a space of 5 feet, it made a 180-degree turn, and emitted a dazzling blue radiance as it whistled towards the space between the assassins and Princess Ling Meng. Chapter 59, Sky Xian. You are listening at novelfull.audio. TL. I have decided to change the Supreme God Xian rank into Supreme Divine Xian rank. I will change those in the earlier chapters later on. Chapter 059 Sky Xian. Regular chapter. Seeing the assassins heading towards him earlier, Jun Xie had already thought of a method to get out of this situation. As he was falling down in a seemingly miserable manner, he exercised every ounce of skill and focused it upon his chest. Through the empowerment of his internal energies, his outer and inner robes bulged forward, forming 2 delicate layers of protection. The heavy kicks from the assassin seemingly connected with Jun Xie's chest, but was in fact interfered with by the pulsing outer robe, causing its momentum to dissipate by a large margin. Next, the pulsing inner robe acted in concert to further shave off another layer of momentum off the kicks. As such, the amount of force behind the attack was only at less than 1/3 of the original. By the time the kicks landed on his chest, the momentum behind it had been mostly spent, leaving only a minor force behind it. Despite that, a sword wound and 2 kicks were not something the present Jun Xie could easily endure. It was in fact quite difficult. At the same time, Jun Xie channeled the art of heaven's fortune to force all the blood from his injuries into a mass of blood which he then sprayed out. It seemed like a scary amount, but was in fact nothing severe. The sword wound was cocooned by the powers of the art of unlocking heaven's fortune. With the art's mysterious prowess, the wound could only be considered a flesh wound. The 2 kicks on the other hand was a different matter, causing him no small amount of pain. If these men had waited for Jun Xie to leave before dealing with Princess Ling Meng, or perhaps if they had ignored Jun Xie in their assassination mission, then Jun Xie would have simply walked away in a calm manner by now. At best, Princess Ling Meng was only Jun Moxie's dream lover and not Jun Xie's. Thus, this senior had no scruples at all about not caring for her. Heroes will step forth to protect beauties, but in order to obtain and protect beauties, one must first have a sufficient amount of strength. It just so happened that strength was what the 3rd young Master Jun was lacking at the present. Instead, these assassins decided to include him in the target list, causing the evil monarch's fury to rise to the skies. Disregarding the possibility that something like this might happen again in the future, Jun Xie would never forgive them for what they did this time around. Against all those who harmed me or those who attempted to harm me, I have always dealt with them preemptively. Since you wanted to kill me, then you better watch it. I may not be able to kill you now, but I sure can disrupt this plan of yours. Even though this would be a non-beneficial transaction, I will still have to do it for once. Therefore, Jun Xie, who should have left, decided not to. Witnessing Princess Ling Meng in her critical situation, he utilized his unlocked meridians to mimic the chi of a Sky Xian ranked expert. He poured the chi into his flying dagger before shooting it out with a swirling maneuver. The 2 assassin leaders were about to push their swords forward and finish off Princess Ling Meng when they suddenly felt something off. A blue radiance flashed before them, causing everyone to squint their eyes due to its extremely dazzling brilliance. Dark blue. A small flying dagger which had seemingly appeared out of nowhere, struck down in between the 2 swords of the assassins and Princess Ling Meng's body. This small flying dagger had seemingly brought with it the entirety of the dark blue aspect of the night down upon the ground. The dark blue color upon it caused everyone's soul to palpitate with fear. Amidst the darkness of the night, this dark blue radiance was simply dazzling. This Sky Xian expert. The 2 masked men in black cried out in fear, an expression of extreme horror flashed within their eyes. They lost all thoughts of killing Princess Ling Meng, hastily retracted their swords and retreated quickly in an awkward manner. Their expression after seeing the flying dagger was akin to seeing a deadly viper. That was a strength that they simply could not defy. Indeed, when facing Princess Ling Meng, who had the strength of Silver Xian, the two of them were like an adult fighting a child. However, in the face of a top existence known as the Sky Xian ranked expert, a Gold Xian expert were at best a baby, if not an ant. There were not many Sky Xian experts within Tianxiang Kingdom. How could one suddenly appear at this crucial moment? Although the flying dagger was imbued with an azure blue color, it seemed to be lacking any force behind it. It gently fell to the ground, inserting itself between the two men in black and Princess Ling Meng. The thin flying dagger stood like a willow branch, swaying gently. The azure blue radiance upon it remained without dispersing. After a moment, the flying dagger was finally restored to its original color. Many of them at the scene were shocked and simultaneously stopped whatever they were doing. Their eyes were all focused on the small flying dagger inserted upon the ground, their expressions filled with astonishment. In their eyes, the small flying dagger had transformed into an insurmountable moat. Upon the flying dagger was the deep blue color, which was maintained from the moment it was shot out until way after it had stopped. Judging by these events, this Sky Xian expert's level of cultivation must have reached the pinnacle stage. The gap between this expert and the supreme divine Xian realm was probably only half a step. In addition, this flying dagger was shot out without any sound, seemingly without any force behind it. Yet, the high level of precision involved in controlling the trajectory of the flying dagger declared something to them. It declared that this flying dagger was meant as a form of deterrence. The Sky Xian expert had not issued it with the intention to kill. This act made it appear that this expert had no worries and simply did not view the 9 assassins highly. It was obvious that the expert had absolute confidence in his ability to kill them all in an instant if any of them tried to make a move against Princess Ling Meng. To say that a Sky Xian expert could wipe out these 9 men with a wave of his hand was not an exaggeration. Everyone there were highly capable individuals possessing vast amounts of experience. How could they not understand the intentions of this secretive expert? As the 2 assassin leaders were about to stab Princess Ling Meng, a figure draped in blue clothing suddenly radiated an oceanic blue glow. This person, who was hidden within the dark eaves of a house situated beside the street, was about to make his move when he saw the flying dagger appear. He became startled and his body, which was about to fly out, abruptly stopped, his eyes covered in shock. Within the eyes of this man in blue was a light blue shine, signifying the beginner stage of the Sky Xian rank. Even though he could be considered a top-level existence, compared to the Sky Xian expert, who issued the flying daggers, his level of cultivation was somewhat inferior. Behind their masks, the 9 assassins' faces were filled with fear and a little bit of dilemma. Even though they were assassins by profession, they were still men who valued their own lives. If there were a chance to win, they would certainly choose to duke it out. However, when facing an impossible task with 100% death rate, everyone could only choose to retreat. In contrast, Princess Ling Meng's bodyguards all became relieved and delighted. With such a legendary existence protecting Princess Ling Meng, Her Highness' safety was assured. If the princess were to be assassinated here, then even if they were able to protect their own lives from these assassins, they would not be able to escape the Emperor's wrath. Once His Majesty launched an investigation into this case, their wives and children might end up being harmed. BVEC Princess Ling Meng opened her eyes and bore witness to this scene. Looking at the small flying dagger on the ground, she felt thankful. If not for this flying dagger which had appeared in such a dominating manner, she would have perished by now. Which senior has arrived? Do you have any instructions? Please show yourself. The leader of the masked men in black stood straight, his hands cupped respectfully towards the sky as he said in a courteous voice. Trying to pull wool over the tiger's eyes, this man pretended to not understand the expert's intention and tried to feel him out. If this assassination attempt were to fail, they would not have anything good awaiting them. Thus, he could only hold on to the possibility of a what if and give it a try. If it was determined that this hidden Sky Xian expert truly desired to protect Princess Ling Meng, then they would have no hope of accomplishing their mission even at the cost of every one of their lives. Should that be the case, they could only choose to retreat. However, even if Princess Ling Meng was the princess of the kingdom, the most adored daughter of the emperor, how could someone like her have a pinnacle Sky Xian expert as a bodyguard? Only the emperor of Tianxiang kingdom could qualify to have such a kind of bodyguard. The street remained still, not a sound to be heard. It was only natural for this mysterious Sky Xian expert to not give these minor characters any acknowledgement. Chapter 60, Mind-Blowing Sky Xian Expert. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 060, Mind-Blowing Sky Xian Expert. Regular chapter. In the distance, the muffled sound of hooves could be heard, each sound resounding like thunder as they moved towards them. It appeared that this assassination attempt had been found out. After a while, the eyes of the leader of the men in black burst with a cold glint. He waved his hand, and charged at Princess Ling Meng with a sword in hand. Since you refuse to talk, then I will try again. If you choose to stop us, then we will retreat immediately. If you do not stop us, then Princess Ling Meng will die. That way, our mission can be completed. However, as he advanced forwards, he carefully avoided the flying dagger, not daring to come in contact with it. Who knew what kind of strange temper this expert might have? Coming in contact with the dagger might end up inviting a calamity. A deep blue color suddenly appeared in the middle of the air as another flying dagger carrying a blue glow shot down before this man in black. The speed of this dagger was obviously faster than before. It appeared that this mysterious expert was feeling somewhat angry at the Gold Xian assassin's act of not understanding his intentions. The two flying daggers were inserted onto the ground, small and exquisite, its body quivering, just like a precious artwork that could be crushed by merely coming in contact with it. It seemed as though it would be blown away by the winds at any moment. However, in the eyes of the 9 assassins, these two flying daggers had transformed into a mountain standing before them and Princess Ling Meng. An insurmountable mountain. Any attempt to cross it was tantamount to suicide. As of now, if they wished to kill Princess Ling Meng, they must first kill the one who issued the flying daggers. However, that person is a pinnacle Sky Xian expert. Even if all 9 of them were to join forces, it would only take the expert the time it takes one to lift one's hand to finish them off. At this time, the Sky Xian expert hidden on the roof had already activated his entire spiritual awareness. Closing his eyes tightly, he endeavored to detect every single powerful existence. Under his spiritual awareness scope of search, he was confident that he could detect the movements of a pinnacle Sky Xian expert or even a beginner stage Supreme Divine Xian expert. However, after using his spiritual awareness to search, this Sky Xian expert's eyes widened in horror. Beads of sweat dripped down from his forehead, evidence of how much fear was within his eyes at this point. Who was it that had helped Princess Ling Meng? The Sky Xian expert considered this question within his heart, but he no longer tried to search for the immeasurably mysterious expert's aura. Because his earlier search where he utilized his entire being had resulted in nothing. There were no Xian Qi fluctuations in the air, nor was there any trace of soul fluctuations. The person who shot out the daggers had actually contained all of those. What could that mean? What kind of cultivation was required for this? From the perspective of this Sky Xian expert, this was something that he could not accomplish. Not even a pinnacle Sky Xian expert or even a middle-stage Supreme Divine Xian could accomplish this. Could it be? For this mysterious expert to have such a high level of ability, could it a pinnacle Supreme Divine Xian expert? Isn't that an invincible being? That is simply an existence that belonged within myths and legends. Oh, my God! When he recalled how he, who was merely a minor little beginner stage Sky Xian, had tried to detect the whereabouts of this powerful existence, the Sky Xian expert became drenched in sweat. Even though he was unable to determine the location of this person, such a kind of existence would certainly have found out about him. If this person had chosen to reveal his soul and retaliated by slapping his spiritual awareness, then his mind would have been crushed without any difficulty at all. Should that happen, there was no doubt that he would have become a basket case by now. Fear, terror, how long has it been since he had felt such emotions? But at this moment, the heart of this Sky Xian expert could not help but feel fearful. A look of gratitude appeared within his eyes as he silently saluted the empty air. His manner was respectful, as though he was seeing his ancestors. He knew that the other person was able to feel and observe his current actions. How could he have known that this pinnacle supreme divine Xian existence within his mind was currently sprawled on the ground like a motionless, dead mutt? As for the matter of him failing to detect any powerful soul, that was simply a matter of course. The Xian Qi soul power of this pinnacle supreme divine Xian expert that was lying on the ground like a dead dog was not even at the silver level, it was simply too weak. Back then, even though he had detected his presence, he had completely ignored it. It was simply too weak. Of course, there was the question of why the pinnacle supreme divine Xian expert would use the cultivation level of a Sky Xian to deter these assassins. This was a very easy question to answer. The radiance of Xian Qi would return to its original state once the supreme divine Xian rank was attained, and the Xian Qi used would have no color at all. If this person had used his true abilities to issue the daggers, those assassins would have simply ignored it, not knowing what kind of meaning it held. Wouldn't that be unsightly? And if he were to personally come forth to stamp down those few ants, that would simply be too demeaning for him. On the other hand, the highest possible cultivation level that could still radiate color when using Xian Qi would be the pinnacle Sky Xian rank, which radiated a dark blue ocean glow. Even those who have no Xian Qi cultivation would be able to notice this. Evidently, this senior was a very compassionate and thoughtful person. Moreover, he was also a man of great benevolence, his heart was simply too thoughtful. The Sky Xian expert lamented as his heart was filled with admiration. It was no wonder that this person could achieve such a high level. Just by observing this senior's level of cultivation, this kind of disposition, the Sky Xian expert felt himself to be far inferior. This senior is a true master. If these thoughts within his mind were to be known to the pinnacle supreme divine Xian expert, who was lying on the ground, he would likely spew out a mouthful of blood and faint. You are simply giving me too high of an evaluation. In the street below, the leader of the assassins revealed an expression of resignation on his eyes. His expression changed for a bit before finally looking up and shouted. Since Senior would not permit this junior to be presumptuous, this junior will leave. After waiting for a while, there was still no response. Realizing that the Sky Xian expert had no intentions of revealing himself and hearing the sound of horse hooves getting closer, he waved his hand. Withdraw. The 9 men retreated simultaneously, together their golden and silver light flashed out as they prepared to escape far away. But just as they were about to do so, a cold voice suddenly spoke out. After killing so many people, you want to leave by just saying that? Did you think you could get off that easy? Following these words, a blue figure suddenly appeared in the corner of the street, blocking the escape path of the 9 men in black. This man's entire body was covered in blue radiance, his eyes akin to a pair of light blue pearls, his body tall and lean. Standing in the midst of the darkness, those who saw him could not help but feel a sense of loneliness within their hearts. Loneliness, dismal, solitude, bleakness. Embodied within this man were all these negative emotions that would cause anyone to feel extremely sad. Even the slender long sword held within his hand seemed to be exuding an aura of loneliness. Princess Ling Meng's face lit up as she cried out. Uncle Yi, it is really you. Menger feels so happy. The expression of the two assassin leaders suddenly underwent a great change, their eyes contracting at the same time as they coldly asked. Solitary star of the horizon, Yi Guhan. It turned out to be you. Isn't your weapon of choice the sword? Since when did you start to use flying daggers to mystify people? It does not matter what I use, it will be more than enough to kill you pieces of trash. Yi Guhan glanced over the 9 assassins before looking at Princess Ling Meng. His eyes revealed a rare expression of warmth and affection. Little Meng is misbehaving again, going out of the palace secretly. Now you have encountered a dangerous situation, are you frightened? With Uncle Yi here, Mengya will definitely be safe, Princess Ling Meng smiled lovingly. Before this world-famous solitary figure, solitary star of the horizon, Yi Guhan, Princess Ling Meng did not appear to have any resemblance to a royal princess. Her bearing was more towards a little girl who had just met her dear uncle, her face showing an incomparable amount of respect and dependence.